Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Long way from Georgia State, folks. Long way from Georgia State. Tennessee with the big win yesterday. They end the Will Muschamp jinx. 41-21, Tennessee just handled South Carolina, especially in the second half, just owned them. Was it the best win since Pruitt's been here? No, he beat a couple of ranked teams last year, but might have been your most complete win. We'll discuss that and a lot more today. There isn't much negative to talk about, so for those of you who cry every week that we're too negative, you'll like today. When it's good, we say it's good. When it's bad, we say it's bad. It was good yesterday, so a good show ahead. Let's start it. First segment brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. This is a local company, folks, and I mean family-owned right down to the design of their B logo, everything done in family. Add to that the fact that they are the best company in the state for junk removal, big items or small items. Junk Be Gone is the team to call. Locally owned, family owned, Junk Be Gone, and junkbegone.biz to learn more about all their many services that they provide. All right, want to welcome in round one of our panel today, and we've got an extra large group we'll tell you about a little later. We got Bob Hodge right here, Will Overstreet, Jimmy Himes, David Ubben back with us. Gentlemen, let's start with what I thought was going to be the difference in the game. I just didn't think it would be the difference in that way.
Yeah.
I took South Carolina because I thought you didn't know what you'd get out of Tennessee's quarterback play. Garantano, you didn't know if they were going to play him. You thought with the numbers running down he might get in there, but you didn't know how much. You didn't know how he would look, how the team would respond to him. Shrout, he really hasn't played much since he was in high school, and there he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. Instead, they start Jauan Jennings as your starting quarterback. Somebody tweeted me yesterday, when was the last time Tennessee's starting quarterback led them in receiving? So, anyway, Jauan Jennings, Jarrett Garantano. If you'd told me they would throw for 350-plus yards before that game, I would have asked for a shot of whatever you were drinking. We'll start with the quarterback. Your thoughts on the way they played and the job Jim Chaney had to do this week to coach three guys to that performance?
John, I was really impressed with him. He had three different quarterbacks, and they threw for 350 yards. I wondered how many yards they'd have thrown for if they'd have played four quarterbacks. Maybe that was the deal. But I was really impressed with what they did, and they took a lot of shots downfield. They took more in the second half, but they had a lot of explosive plays in the game. They went to their receivers. And one of the things I thought that they did a good job of, a lot on the play-action passes, most of those shots downfield, you had single coverage. And I like my chances with Jennings or Callaway and single coverage. But I thought the quarterback play was outstanding.
And I think not only would I have not have thought of 350 yards playing all these guys, no interceptions. And that was huge. I think no sacks.
No sacks.
Which goes to the offensive line and the quarterbacks as well.
Although Garantano did get killed at one point.
Well, that's kind of his thing.
That is his thing, yeah.
But I was with you. That's the reason I went with South Carolina. I just thought, okay, what are you going to do? I mean, the way people were talking, I wouldn't have been shocked if Garantano just says, I'm out of here. I'm going home. I can't take this anymore.
Well, and there were plenty of players last week on Twitter and some here off the camera that said, if I'm the coach, he never plays again.
Yeah.
And so I can't argue with that.
That was more than impressive.
Yeah. Thoughts on the quarterback play, Will, David?
Yeah, outstanding from start to finish, and really from guys that you didn't know how they were going to play. Shrout, you definitely didn't know how he would play. You hadn't seen very much of him. And just being able to show that they had a great game plan against South Carolina. They knew what their guys could do. They knew what South Carolina's defense was weak in. And they put it together, and give everyone credit for executing that. And I also think you learned a lot. I still think you see that the coaching staff feels a couple of guys come better off the bench than they do starting, and I don't know if that continues to show you how they're going to play moving forward.
We talked about that on Friday with Jimmy on his radio show, the fact that if you're going to have one of those guys start and the other one come off the bench, maybe you want to go with Shrout first. So you've got Garantano off the bench, and I think he does look better in that role. David, let me shake it up on you a little bit. Let's talk about the fact Jeremy Pruitt at halftime yesterday, coming off the SEC Network, he says, well, we need to call a bit more aggressive game in the second half, give our guys a chance to succeed. they did. They went bombs away in the second half. I'll get you to talk on their aggressiveness, but also to me, his on-field coaching this year, far ahead of where it was last year. I think he's better as a game manager. Remember last year, people said, I like the 5 onside kicks. And I said, you're not going to see that next year. You haven't. He looks more in control. Last year, he's grabbing the play chart at Vanderbilt, and they're running a really conservative kind of attack. I think he has grown up as a coach in terms of managing games. Your thoughts on the aggressiveness yesterday, or if you disagree or agree with what I'm saying?
I think so. I mean, South Carolina defensive back J.C. Horn basically said every time that they felt like they were in a good call, Tennessee had the perfect call to counter it. Their secondary felt like they played pretty well, and they gave up 350 yards to quarterbacks that nobody was expecting that. And it wasn't guys running free. It wasn't busts. It was just guys getting a little bit open and the quarterback putting it on them. So props to Jim Chaney, not only for making the calls, but for having those guys ready. That's not an easy task. I mean, this team had kind of moved on. It looked like it was kind of Maurer's team. All of a sudden, you have to jostle. You have a weird situation. I don't think anyone was quite sure how they were going to play that. I felt like they were going to do just a feel thing, and they felt it out perfectly, which is really hard to do on the fly.
Let me go and put some stats up from yesterday's game just so you can see it. Now, I put out yesterday, I think it was their most complete win. And what I mean by that, they won at Auburn. I think that's your best win. You beat a Kentucky team that wound up with 10 wins, was in the top 10. Maybe that's the most complete, but in terms of seeing a Tennessee team win on offense, win on defense, and also get 2 special teams touchdowns. I mean, the Auburn game last year, you got outrushed 2-1. You got outgained 450 yards to 3-something. This, to me, is the most complete game I've seen of the Pruitt era. Agree, disagree, thoughts?
Agreed. You look at every part of this game. They had pass rush. We'd said they hadn't been able to do that. You had your ability to stop the run. Ken Law, who was supposed to be a number 1 draft pick or a top first round, he had 1 assisted tackle the entire game. That was his impact. You had from every part of the phase where you could pick out and go, we dominated in that phase. We dominated there. We dominated there. So looking at this game, you have to say it's the most complete game just because there wasn't one big position that you could look at and go, well, we would be good except for that, or that's going to be trouble the next couple of weeks. This team puts together a film tape that does say, can you beat the rest of the teams on your schedule? Yeah. This tape says you can beat those teams on the schedule. So I think everything shows they're getting better.
Jimmy.
I had said Kentucky, but then I had not factored in the 2 non-offensive touchdowns. But you dominated Kentucky.
Yeah.
You outrushed them. You outgained them by a lot, and that was a number 11 or 12 ranked Kentucky team,
and held them number 7. I mean, held them 7 points.
7
too,
points,
yeah.
and so I looked at that. But then when you throw in the special teams touchdowns, you'd go with South Carolina. But I thought Kentucky was pretty complete last year.
Yeah, I mean, and go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
I think you look at, we still haven't really even gotten enough on the defense. I think the second half shutout is one thing, but the first half, it looked like Tennessee was getting into a shootout.
Yeah.
Ryan Helinski, 12 of 15, 164 yards in the first half. Second half, 16 of 36, 155. I mean, that's night and day. He wasn't great yesterday, but a lot of that was because Tennessee was covering him. He didn't have a lot of guys running free in the secondary, and you look at that compared to what we saw against the Florida game, it's night and day.
What were they, 0 of 9 on third down conversions in the second half?
Correct.
Yep.
Bob, I wouldn't. We're going to get into this in the next question, in the next segment, so I'll let you kind of just lead into this, though. Simply, I didn't see this coming. After that Georgia State game, now we said after Georgia State, right here on this show, and we were called mouthpieces, no homers, that don't give up on the season. It's one game. It was one game.
Yeah, I gave up after 2.
But the same thing with the South Carolina game. I didn't see this defense playing this well. I didn't see this offense playing this well. But it's one game. I don't know that this carries over any more than the Kentucky or Auburn games did last year. That's the danger of, okay, we're going to lose them all from here, or, we're going to win them all from here. It's kind of one game every week.
And I agree with that. I'm not going to put them in a bowl game just yet. However, the improvement that you're seeing, and I don't want to step on the next segment, but the improvement you've seen from the front 4 guys, I don't want to say defensive line segment, but anyway, that improvement right there, to me, is dramatic.
Yes.
And it doesn't look flukish. It doesn't look like, okay, wow, they played well today, but then next week they're not going to. That looks like real, by golly, these guys are getting better.
Tell you what, we'll talk about which unit has improved the most, offense or defense. That's next. Also, okay, Garantano's now having surgery today on his wrist. Maurer, we don't know where he is with the concussion protocol. What's the quarterback plan for UAB? We'll talk about all that next. Much more to come on the Sports Source.
The biggest sports crew in the state of Tennessee. This is the Sports Source.